Some of the biggest growth stocks in the market have lost 30, 40, 50% in July alone. Traditionally, July is a strong month for the stock market. Hasn't really proven to be the case. Yet my portfolio has done the polar opposite. It's up 5%. But does it mean that I or this portfolio could survive a stock market crash? Let's talk about why horses for courses when it comes to portfolios is hugely important. Because I get it, a technology sell-off is a one situation here, but a complete market crash is a different scenario. There's a bit of a situation where they can lead to each other due to lack of confidence. But again, we need to talk about the differences between portfolios. Firstly, as you can see, SanDisk has sunk 54%. The technology in the semiconductor kind of world has been in a massive bubble, and it's kind of burst a little bit in this temporarily kind of situation. But the biggest loser within this is still up 2,000%. So yeah, there's, as I say, it's timing, and we'll go through that in a minute. But also you got this situation here where, the AI kind of chip makers and, SpaceX and all that kind of stuff, right? Because these are not bad businesses. They're just cyclical. And you can see here multiple different components between the S&P 500, right? But the technology side is rather raw, rather red, versus, say, consumer staples, which we do need to go on to, communication services, which we do need to go on to. However, Meta did lose a lot of value on the earnings last night. We will talk about that in a minute. But when we talk about financials, consumer staples, industries, materials, they tend to make up dividend stocks. Not in terms of they are dividend specific. They are just more solid, rounded companies that do pay a dividend. My portfolio, as you can see on the screen, is up a lot versus the S&P 500, 7.34%. That's just the mental thing about it, right? And I know that's just one side of the story. And you can see realistically when I go on here, it's fallen a lot in terms of what the differences are. But that is, again, timing. My overall portfolio is up over 5% this month. The entire portfolio is looking really strong. Some stuff in here in terms of the funds are up a really good chunk. Just to give you an example, this is my Vanguard FTSE All World High Dividend Yield Payers. 2,400 stocks in there. It's got a decent income, but it's tracking top quality companies. And as you can see in terms of price performance, it has been very, very strong. But the weights are very, very different. There's very, very little technology, under 10%. Some of the top performing stocks here have done very, very well. They are financial services, industry, healthcare, consumer defensive, energy. It's a different sector, which we do need to talk about. It's also less America, more Japan, more UK, Switzerland, Canada. You get the idea. But I also have a trust fund called Temple Bar. This is a trust fund where they buy the stocks and stuff like that and manage it. And then based on their performance, they do well. And again, it is all financial services. Most of it in the UK. The UK market is doing okay at the minute. And you can see some of their top holdings here. And when we talk about, say, the FTSE, the UK market, as it stands right now, is doing pretty well, which I know some people have a disbelief about that, but Andy Burnham's came in and is making the right noises. It's too early to say, but we do need this market to grow. It is, I believe, massively behind, say, the US market, and that could lead to opportunity. But the reason why my boring portfolio has kind of done all right, even though we are in a bull market, it's one of those things where it's just the old world from 100 years ago, the old quote of solid businesses that you should be focusing on is still very much, I think, true. Real profits and free cash flow is the best thing for a company. That will create safety, confidence, and those excess profits can then be paid out to shareholders, which will give more and more confidence to obviously holders and people wanting to invest. There's a different world around growth stocks versus, say, dividends. And one of my theories is the likes of Apple and Microsoft and stuff like that, they are now paying dividends, only small, and their share is a lot smaller. We may see that eventually over the course of time. We will see Apple and stuff that pay a 1, 2, maybe even 3% dividend yield, and they will become top quality, really bulletproof businesses that are probably never going to fail. Because I think what people automatically assume, and this isn't a dig, but you've got two sides of the story. Paying a dividend doesn't mean that it's a strong, safe company. But likewise, it also does. You've got a situation where I think a lot of people miss the point. A good quality business will probably pay dividends. They're not very high in yield. They grow them over time with performance, and that is a solid company. All I'm doing is buying solid companies, but I want more income, which is why I focus on that. You've also got the other side of it where, as much as this looks nice, other people will aim to get this as high as possible. They will try and go for the high yield, but they erode in terms of price performance. I covered this in a video recently about high performance yield, and some of them are quite good, but they won't stand the test of time. You will actually lose 10% per year versus say the payment that you're going to get. So you can't stand still. There's no point. But for example, on my screen, all right, it's entirely up to you how you want to perceive this. But for me, a good quality company is a lot better than buying something that is probably very, very cyclical, because you've got this thing called emotion. When you compare the two, right, you've got growth investors. They will accept or want to be a part of certain things. So for example, if I go to the US market, you're going to be looking at certain things. So the one thing that you may notice here on the PE ratios, they're all sky high, higher valuations and greater expectations. They are really expected to do well based off earnings. Now, I mentioned it before, Meta has had a bad earnings. It may not be on my screen just yet, but it missed. And the price fell about 9%. I'll show it in a second, but when they miss, it becomes a bit, clenching of the arse situation, rabbit's nose, bum, basically, right? That's a problem because that will create a lack of confidence. And when people are looking for gains, they're unlikely to hold them assets because they're trying to make money quickly. It's a wrong mindset to have. I mean, just look at the state of some of these stocks here, like so awful. But as you can see here, this is Meta pre-market. We're down a lot. And the earnings have been missed dramatically. It's crazy. So revenue has rose in Q2, but the surprise is nowhere near as enough as it should have been. Investors didn't like that. So when we're talking about cyclical periods of, say, the high to this where we are at now, we're down, let's just say for this candle here, within 12 days, you could probably argue 14 days, 13, 14 days, whatever, with weekends and stuff like that, working days, say 20 days in total, 20%. That's Meta, by the way. Yes, don't get me wrong, timing's key. If you bought like in 2023, whatever, but at the end of the day, it's timing. If people bought at the wrong time, they are going to be sweating, clenching, horribleness. And the same with some of these stocks here, Iron. I held Iran and I made a decent chunk of money on it, but I didn't like the volatility of it. That's crazy moves, and the volatility is unbelievable. Not everyone is cut out for it. Now, as I say, with the world of dividend stocks, I don't know why there's a D there, but delayed data, oh, there you go. They're different. They do move, don't get me wrong, but slower growth because they are less likely to boom. Shell's a different one because of oil, so that's a little bit of a caveat there. But if we're looking at, like, say, Coca-Cola bottling brand, it's done all right. It's growing nicely. Aviva's another one that's been a bit mental recently, but it's kind of like been up and then back up again. The one situation you got to remember is less exposure to exciting people will probably create a more stable kind of foundation. Yes, there's possible dividend cuts, don't get me wrong. They still have to do well with earnings. Obviously, Aviva didn't do very well with this earnings here, but it didn't really crumble it that much. It's actually higher now. They do recover. And a lot of people do say sometimes they get sold off. And people do this, by the way. They look at the dividend X yield, or the X date, sorry, and they will sell and buy back and move it around very quickly. It doesn't really seem to bother me that much, but if you zoom out enough, you will see that with dividend stocks, they do tend to go up. I mean, even Tesco, for example, it's been pretty good over the last year or so. Even in the last couple of months, it's actually been rising quite a lot. A lot of people just seem to think that dividend stocks are just sideways. They're not. They're definitely not. I mean, my most recent fund is this one. It's doing fantastic. I'll zoom out a little bit. There you go. Bit crazy. It's quite a new fund. I don't have much data on my own screener for this one because it's quite new. but it's growing quite nicely. Likewise, as I said before, with the all world dividend one, it's doing brilliant realistically. Like over the last few years, it's been crazy moves. So yeah, we're looking at a situation where maybe profits from those growth stocks are going into these consumer staple sort of stuff. But what I've done is I've put on the screen here kind of the stress test of 120k, losing 10%, losing 20%, 30%, 40%. You can see it on the screen. Them values are mental. So this is why, for me, risk management is hugely important. This is why I have those individual stocks at a much lower percentage rate, whereas an ETF won't really blow up as much, if that makes sense. But in terms of a crash, there's always going to be market crashes. I cannot stress that enough between anything you look at, right? So the one thing that I'm going to do here, I'm going to go to my portfolio. Now, as it stands, on my portfolio, we're at 82 out of 100. It's a resilient, balanced portfolio. As it stands, it's got strong dividend side of it. It's good. And apart from one, that's a little bit of an issue. But it's quite balanced between what I want. I've got consumer defensive, I've got energy, I've got finance, not much technology in there at all. Only the whatever's in the ETF fund. So it's doing all right. But as I say, right, crashes can change it massively. I could get dividend cuts. It could lose confidence. This doesn't mean that my portfolio will do better in a crash versus, say, growth investors. It doesn't. It just means I will probably lose less money because they will not crash as much, because most people who buy these type of portfolios, for example, have more confidence. People tend to look for the income side of it anyways. They will contribute regularly, buying more shares lower, therefore getting more income as it grows. Yield on cost vibes. They also like to reinvest those dividends, and it's a different mentality. But they are also buying, as I said before, solid businesses that are less likely to blow up on you versus, say, a tech startup or something that is very, very cyclical that could get issues or run out of town. But in a crash, you need to look at diversification anyways. You need to look at what is a safe, stable sector and avoid trying to predict bottoms and stuff out, because people do. People try that all the time. Don't. Just buy regularly, and that will probably see you over. But having fear if there is ever a kind of a stock crash, but also understanding that, a correction and a stock crash, two different things. Because at the end of the day, right, it's all about research. Let's go onto my screener again, and you can jump in on this if you want to. You are looking for solid companies. What has made, say, Meta or Netflix or whatever fall those percentage numbers? Is it now becoming a situation of opportunity versus, say, problem, if that makes sense? Because you can look at it two different ways. What about Macron, right? This has been a really, really top covered stock in the last, 3 or 4 months? Excellent in terms of quality. It doesn't pay a dividend, so it's a different sort of thing for me. But for some people, this doesn't change anything. That correction there does not change anything. To some people, as I say, they may look at that and go, I'm in. I want to buy this at this price, whatever number or area. So you got to look at that side of it, because people forget that bit. But when I look at my portfolio, I do feel that I will do okay long term because I've set it up in that way. I have my Bitcoin for growth. I have some elements of growth on this and income. But the industries that I'm covering, I want to be in, are nowhere near volatile. And I know, horses for courses, everyone's got an opinion, everyone's got a different game. It's personal finance at the end of it. I'm not saying that this portfolio will do well. All I'm saying is, through the crashes, it's not too bad. But I don't get all the growth, do I? That's where people don't like it. By the way, if you're interested, link below. That is Snowball Analytics. Brilliant tool. Just import your broker platform into it. Very, very easy to do, and it'll give you a lot more data. Now, obviously, for me, my personal opinion, of course, no portfolio is perfect. Whether it goes up, catching the tops to sell, buying the bottoms, there's no such thing as a perfect portfolio. We know that. The situation is, I will keep adding into quality companies. Even if the price looks like dog shit, there's still solid companies to be had, especially when you talk about reinvesting, say, dividends that it may get. That might well make the yield better for you, all kinds of stuff. But likewise, if you find a quality growth stock which is decent longer term, you may find the perfect entry point that suits you. Don't get shy because the market's crumbled a little bit. But the question you need to ask yourself, can you handle, say, a £40,000 drop in your portfolio? Will that change how you think about it? Anyways, hope you enjoy. I won't be around next week because I'm getting married on Saturday. So yeah, I'll leave you to your own devices for a week. We'll see how you get on.